You know, when I was growing up, we had 3, 6, and 10, and then the PBS, and then the Spanish channel. That Abuelita was always on that one, right? But for the most part, for us young kids, it was 3, 6, and 10, and then certain times PBS because, you know, Sesame Street and all the other shows. But it wasn't like today you could just surf and surf and surf, and whatever was on, that was on. That's it. You couldn't go to Netflix, you couldn't go to YouTube, you couldn't do any of that. You had to, and if the president was on, that was it. Your night is shot. He was on all the channels, right? But I remember, you know, going through the channels, and every now and then, be it PBS or whatever, there'd be a cooking show. And I would think, well, there's nothing else on, so let me see what this person is cooking. And I remember sitting there, and this person was showing the viewing audience how to make a particular dish, whether it's a pie or whether it's a cake. And they always had these little containers with all the ingredients all lined up. They don't show you the trip to H-E-B, right? And you grab all the ingredients and then going back home. And they don't show the part where they get there and like, oh, I forgot this part. And you go back to H-E-B and they go back to the house. And they don't show the part where you need a certain kind of pan and you know you don't have one. So you call your neighbors to see if you could borrow. It's time consuming to cook. Right? No? Okay, only 2 people in here cook. But it's time consuming. But the show, they only had like 30 minutes, so everything was already laid out. And so we're going to make this dish today, and you're going to need, you know, whatever, paprika. And then they just reach in that. Everything was already, you know, pre-prepared. And they show you the process. And then when it's all said and done and everything is together, they say, and you're going to bake this for 45 minutes in the oven. And they stick it in the oven and they close it, and you're going to give it 45 minutes. And then as soon as they finish telling you that, they open the oven, they pull it, and it's already made. And I thought, that is amazing. They have like special stoves, these cooks. Everyone else has a stove where you have to wait 45 minutes, but this person just puts it in. Well, you know, I didn't know at the time that they had already made one dish ahead of time because they only have 30 minutes in the show. And so when you put it in the oven, you wait 45 minutes, but we don't have 45 minutes because the show is only 30 minutes. So here's what the finished product looks like. So there's a sense in which they did show you the process, but they had to cut out some excess in order so that you might see the finished product. So in preaching, the message that you hear, there is a sense in which it is the finished product. But there was a lot of time spent preparing all the material in order to paint a certain picture. So when someone like myself wants to make the most of the time, I think, well, I do want to preach a message. I do want to convey a truth. Preaching is proclamation. Preaching is declaration. But at the same time, I want to also be able to teach people how to fish. And you know the analogy, you give a person a fish, they eat for a day or a meal, but if you teach someone to fish, they can eventually learn to fish for themselves. And so that's why I point out certain principles of interpretation when I preach, and that's why sometimes it takes me a long time to get to a particular passage like Luke chapter 16, verses 19 through 31.